Hi friends, welcome to another episode of our FullStack healthcare management system. This is CodeWave. If this is your first time of visiting this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also support CodeWave if you want. The links are in the description below. You can also get the source code from the GitHub repo. If you also need the full or complete source code, which has all the functionalities, you can check the second link after the GitHub. Right? Okay, the link after the GitHub link, right, to get the complete source code. Okay, so in this episode, we are going to work on this appointment and also the patient profile. Okay, so this is where we left. So if I go to appointments, it should be page not found. Okay, so let's continue. So here we'll go into our app, and inside the protected route, we'll create another route which will be called record slash appointment slash page dot tss. Then I'll put refce and just say appointments. Okay, so if we go back, we should have a page. Okay, so we have the appointment page. Okay, so here we'll also need columns. Okay, so we'll need columns like the info, which will be for the username and the profile, and also date of the appointment, time, the doctor, right, as well as the state of the appointment, as well as other actions. Okay, so this is going to be a server-side component, so can put async here, and we will also accept parameters such as the search params, right, and the search params will be of type. The search params will be of type key, which is a string. Okay, so the search param will either be a string or undefined. Okay, so we can make this as optional. Okay, great. So how can we get a search param? Because we'll dynamically use the same page to fetch the user information, right? The current user, the person logged in, we can fetch the appointment of that person, that patient, as well as we use that same page to fetch the appointment of all patients, if it is a doctor or any other the admin. Okay, so what we can say is that we can say const search params equal to await. Okay, so maybe I may want to do it like this. Okay, so I want to say props. Okay, so I'll just say props dot search params. Okay, now we can also use our function to get the user row, right? So user row will be await get row, if you remember that utility that we have. Okay, to get the user row. Okay, we can also get the user ID. So user ID. Okay, user ID from auth. Okay, auth, which is coming from collect NextJs. Okay, now so we have the information that we'll need to determine which user it's actually on that page. Okay, so in the params we will have something like the page, because we want to use pagination, so we can say that search params dot p, so I'll use p for the page, right? Or it should be 1 at the beginning, right? And I want to put it as a string. Okay, great. We can also get search query, should we want to search. Okay, so I'll say this dot kill as search query, or it should be now. Okay, great. So now I can also get the ID, right? If it is a different patient, we'll get the ID. If it's not, then we'll use our own ID. So what we can say is that search params, right, dot ID or equal to undefined. So now we can say let query ID. Now because we have a lot of condition, let's say query ID be equal to undefined, because this same page we'll use it for the patient login, right? So we can fetch the patient login information, we can fetch all patients information, we can also fetch a particular patient information, and the same page will also be used for the doctor to fetch the appointment of the doctor. Okay, so we need to go to some if statement. So we just first check if, we'll check that if the user role is equal to admin. Okay, so if the user role is equal to admin, meaning the person is the administrator, or we'll say user role is equal to doctor. Okay, so first, if the user is admin, right? Okay, what we'll do is that query ID will be equal to the ID, meaning the doctor or the administrator does not have personal appointment, but the appointment of patient, right? Okay, so we'll say the ID should be this ID that we've passed here. Okay, but also let's also check if the doctor, so we can put this inside parenthesis. Now I want to check that if the user role is doctor and the ID, that is this ID exists, meaning we passed ID through the search params, right? If he exists, then we'll pass this. Okay, great. And we can also do another check of all. I'm saying that if user role is equal to a nurse and also the ID exists, right? Okay, so if you are admin, we'll use this ID. If you are a doctor, we'll use the same ID. And if you are a nurse, we'll use that same ID. Okay, so what if user role, right, is equal to doctor and, okay, so it's supposed to be doctor small, right? So what if user role is equal to doctor and ID does not exist? What should we do? Okay, so if user role is equal to doctor and there is no ID, meaning that the doctor is going to fetch all his appointment and not appointment of a particular patient. Okay, so this ID will be the ID of a particular patient. So I'm a doctor, I want to get the appointment of a particular patient. Same for nurse or admin. But if there is no ID, means I want to fetch all my appointments, which can be multiple patients. Okay, so in that, we'll also say this should be the ID. So this should be the ID, which this ID will be the doctor logged in. Or I hope you understand. Okay, great. Let's continue. What if, okay, that's else if user role is equal to patient. Okay, I think we could have even, yes. So we can say if it's this or this, right? If it's this or that, we'll pass the same ID, because this ID, if it's a patient, then this ID will be for the patient. Okay, great. If the user role is equal to a nurse, then we can say that this should be undefined. Okay, because the nurse cannot have appointment. The nurse will only view appointments of all patients, right? All the appointments scheduled for the day, and the nurse does not have appointment to him or herself. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. And we would like to fetch the information of the user. Okay, yeah. So what we can do is that let's go into the utils and services. Okay, there is appointment here. So this is get appointment by patient ID. Okay, so here we are now going to get patient appointments. So what we can do is maybe copy this here and change the name to get patient appointments. Okay, so here the things we will accept, they are, we'll get the page, right? So we need a page, the page number, we'll get the limit that we want to fetch. We'll also get search if there is a search query, and an ID. Okay, let me put the types here, or interface. So I'm just going to say interface or appointment props. Yeah, okay, so you have a page which can be a number or a string. We'll have the limit, which can also be a number or a string. The limit, let's make it optional. There can also be a search, which is optional, and it will be a string. And ID will also be optional, which is a string. So the optional ones, we can say that they can exist or not. Okay, so here, okay, so we are destructing all of this. So I'll just say this and put the all appointment props. Okay, great. So we have all of this. Now we need to build query, but before then, let's get the page number. So I'm just going to say page number will be, then I'll make sure that it's a number. So I'll say number, then I'll pass page, the one that we've destructured. So I'll just say that if that is less than or equal to 0, then it means 1, else it should be number of the page. Okay, so what I'm saying is that if I check the page and it is less than or equal to 0, there is no page 0, so we just want to say page 1, start from 1, else it should be that page number. Okay. So we can also say const limit should also be equal to number, then I'll pass limit. Okay, but if there is no limit, then I'll just set the default to 10. Okay. What again? We can also have the skip. Now the skip will help us to do the pagination. So if we fetch 10, where we want to fetch again, we need to skip that first 10 record. Okay. So we use skip and also say number. So here, okay, what we can do is we just say page number, right? Okay, minus 1 times the limit. Okay, so here we'll first do this. So you know that the index, right? Index will start from 0. So if you want to fetch first 10 record, it will be from 0 up to 9, right? So the next time if we want to fetch, we need to fetch from 10 up to 19. So how can we get that since we know the page number 80? So we just need to say page number, which will be 1, minus 1, which will be 0. So 0 times the limit, 0 means we start from 0. So the first time we start from 0 and go all the way 10. Next time if we want to fetch, the page number will be 2. So if the page number is 2, so 2 minus 1 will be 1. 1 times the limit, let's say 10, will be 10. So we start from 10. So that is how it goes. Okay. Great. So now let me take off all of this. Okay, so I'm going to say here, the things we'll need the data, as well as we need the total record. Okay, and we're going to use await promise count. Great. So we want to count the records by also passing in the search parameters that we'll have. Okay, so here we can also pass in query. So we're going to pass in the where query, and the where query will be a query builder that will right now. Okay, so we'll have to pass in the ID and the search if they exist. Okay, great. So here we're also going to use the same query, right? Okay, so I'll bring it down like this and put it here. Okay, so I'll just put the query builder here. Okay, so it's a little bit long. Okay, so here we are basing on the conditions for search if they exist. Okay, so we get an ID which is optional and a search parameter which is also optional. So we are saying that, you know, search conditions. So if the search exists, right? If the search is true, meaning it exists, they will add this query, which is we are using the or. So if search as we want to search the patient, whether the first name, search patient either by last name, or even search the doctor by name. So if search exists, we'll add this query. If it doesn't, we'll just add an empty object here. Okay, we'll also check if the ID exists, then we create also. So ensure you import Prisma from Prisma client. Okay, so ensure you import Prisma from Prisma client. Okay, and here we're using the types. So Prisma client.types of appointment where input. So, okay, so the appointment table that we have, we're using the where input of it. Okay, this is for type safety. Okay, so import Prisma and import this from it. Okay, you don't have to create this. It's already generated by Prisma for you. Okay, great. So that's it. If the ID exists, then we also use the or condition and add that where the patient ID should be the ID or doctor ID should be this ID. Okay, now here it's where we do the magic by combining the queries. So we say that if ID or search exists, then we just, if one of them exists, we just spread one here, that is the search condition, then we also search the ID conditions, we just spread them. Okay, so if they exist, then we just combine them. That's where I give the name combine query. We combine them, then we return the query here. Okay, so if we go here, is the name, okay, it's same. Okay, so here I have search, I have this. So okay, so remove the carry braces from the where condition here. Great, it should be without the carry braces. Okay, like this. Great. Now this will fetch all the information. So we need to now put in the where condition. So we'll put the escape. The escape should be equal to the escape that we have. Okay, so make sure with the one with capitals. Okay, we need to skip it. Okay, we also need to add take, and the take should be the limit, right? The take should be the limit. The take is the number of records you want to get. The skip will be those how many records you want to skip. Okay, now let us select the data that we will need. We don't have to return everything. So we'll say select. So in the appointment, we need the appointment ID to be true. True. Oh, okay, we will need the appointment ID. We will also need the patient ID. True. The patient ID should also be true. The doctor ID should also be true. Okay. We'll also need the type to be true. We'll also need the appointment date to true. Yes, meaning we want to include all of them. We'll also need the time of the appointment. We'll also need the status true. Okay, so we need all of these records. Okay, now we also need the patient. So let's select from the patient. We also need the patient. So which are the fields we need from the patient? Okay, we will need the ID true. We will need the first name and last name true. We'll also need the phone number, phone true. We'll need gender true. If image exists, we also need it, and we'll need I think date of birth. Let me add that also, date of birth. Then we'll also need the color code. Okay, so I made a little changes to the schema. So if I go to the schema here, okay, so I added color codes, right? So color code was optional to the doctor and to the patient. So if they don't have profile images, we'll generate color code for them, which will be used for the background. So if I show you, if I go back here, you can see that each doctor has a different background, right? Great. So that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so we also need all of this information from the patient, and we will also need, so we also need the doctor. Okay, so like this, we'll also select, we'll need the ID to be true. We will need name, also true. We also need specialization, true. And we also need the color code, true. Okay, so I think, yeah, let's also get the image if it does exist. Okay, great. So we have this ID. Okay, so once we get all of this information, we need to order it. So here, just come here where this parenthesis end, right? The parenthesis from the where condition, right? Okay, so this one. Okay, from all the select. Okay, after the select, just come and put order by. Okay, so by what are we ordering? We're going to order it by the appointment date, which is going to be in descending order. Okay, great. So if we get the data, we just return as appointment data not found. Okay, that's cool. And okay, great. So here we can see that total pages should be equal to total records. So we're fetching the total records here. So this one will be for this, and the first condition, which is this, will be for this, second one for this. That's when we use the promise of all. So we see total record, divided by the limit. Okay, great. Now, but with this, we can get fractions or decimals. So to avoid that, we use the math.c function. Great. Then we just pass in this so that we'll always get the whole number part. Okay. So once this is done, okay, we can return. Okay, so we can return the data. We can return the data here. We can also return the total pages. We can also return current page. Oh my bad. So current page should be equal to page number, right? Okay, so the current page number, and I want to believe that's all. So we need this three information. Okay, let's also return the total record. Okay, great. Okay, great. So these are the information we return here. Okay, so when we come back here, what we can do is that we can just say cons, we want to fetch the data. So we'll get okay, so let's just say await get patient appointments. Okay, so get patient appointment, then we'll have to pass in the things. So the things we can get from it is data. We can also get total pages. We can get total records. We can get current page. Okay, great. The information that we'll have to pass to this, we have to pass the page. Okay, we'll pass limit. Maybe I can leave it, say it as this. Okay, so if I put a console log here, let's see if we get any data back. Okay, so we get some appointment, right? With all the patient is here, the doctor is here. Okay, great. Okay, by the way, we had a little challenge. We had a little challenge in our registration page. Okay, so let me tell you how to fix that. Okay, so how you can fix the overflow issue from here is that go into the registration page. Okay, so inside the new patient form, sorry, not inside there. Okay, so here, just make sure that you have 2 divs, right, before you put in this one. And the first one will take the entire width, the entire height, it should be flex, then item should be center to position the form in the center. Then the second div will have a max width of the 6XL, that's the maximum. If you want to take the entire screen too, you can remove this. Okay, then you put say full width and put relative here, so that it can fit inside it, right? Else it will still overflow. So make sure you have this, and this issue of overflow on this page will be solved. Okay, great. Let's continue. So we can close this. Okay, so now we get the appointment. How do we find our way through with this, the rest? Okay, so here I'm going to say the background should be white. It should be rounded. That's XL, a pattern of 2, and on MD, pattern of 4, and on 2XL, P of 6. Okay, so inside we'll have another div with classes of flex, item center, and justify to between. Okay, inside this, I'll put this icon, and as usual, the title drill, you know. So I'll put this icon, which is a briefcase from Lucid React, import it. Okay, and I'm giving a size of 20 and a text of gray 500, and I have a p tag. The p tag says total records, which is this total record we're getting from here, and we are just using a span tag to also mention the total record. Okay, so make sure this is inside this. Okay, great. Okay, let me put this inside another div. Okay, so what I can do for this class is I can say it should be hidden. On LG, it should be flex, items to center, and a gap of 1. Okay, so this one ends here. So here, I'm going to put another div. This div will house the pathing and the search input. Okay, so I'll say class. I'm going to say width full because I want it to take most of the height. Width on LG, it should be width.fit. Okay, so on small, it should be full, and on large screen, it should be fit to the items in its size. Okay, so item center, and also justify to between. On LG, the justify to start, and I'm going to say a gap of 2. Okay, so here we're going to have a search input. Okay, after the search input, then we'll also have the icon. So here I also want to check, right? I'm going to say cons is patient, right? I want to check if the user is patient or not. So I wait, check row, right? Okay, and say patient. Okay, great. So I also want to check if it's patient. Great. So if it's patient, then the patient can have the appointment container. Okay, so I'll just say and appointment container. Okay, where I'll pass the patient ID as the user ID. Okay, great. Okay, so like this. So first one does not exist as well as this. So let's go into our components. Inside components, search input.tss. Okay, so here, okay, it's pretty simple. So I can maybe just copy paste. So here I have this things. Okay, so I have the search input, which I'm saying that search input, right? I'm importing the router and make sure it's a use client because we're using some hooks. So we use router from Nest Navigation. We also have the search params by using the use search params. Also from Nest Navigation, we also use the path name as okay, as well as we have some state variables here. And now we are creating the query string, right? So we're using a callback from React. We're saying we're getting the name, which is a string, and the value, which is also a string. So we check the params to see that URL search params. Then we check with the search params to get the string. Okay, so once we get a string, we just want to set the search params, right? By setting it to the name and the query that will come. So this will help us create the query. So we set it, the name will be, and the value will be here. Then we'll return the parameter that we have created. Okay, and it is dependent on the search params. Okay, great. Now, this is also the handle search. So once we handle search, we want to prevent default, which is a form event, and want to push the router to the path name, right? The path name that we, okay, to the path name. Where is the path name? The path name is up here, and put question mark. Then we add the query string that we have created. Okay, so after the question mark, all of the rest will be queries. Okay, so here, this is a search input. So we want to, if you remember, I use Q, right? Okay, so if you want to change it, it should be here. When you change it here, make sure you also change it here. Okay, so there might be, the reason we're using this is that there might be page numbers. So we want to preserve that query and add the search to it, right? And still pass all of them to the router and push. Okay, so we have a form which takes the onSubmit as the handle submit, right? And we have a div which goes around this, the search input. Okay, so let me bring it down. So these are the classes of the div, and there's a search icon and the search input. And once we put it, we get the value into the search value and we just push it. Okay, so here I can just import this. Okay, so I can import this. Great. And let's go check. Okay, so now we have this. That says we have 9 records. Okay, and there's a search input also here. Okay, great. So let's get the button. But before we get the button will help us to create the appointment. But then let us create the table first. So okay, so make sure you go down 2 divs and give another div. Okay, and this div should have a class name of margin top of 6. So inside here, we're going to have the table that we created. So make sure you import table from component tables table. Okay, self-closing. And here it will take columns. So it will take columns, which will pass the columns that we have up there. Okay, it will also take the render item, which I will pass empty, callback for now. And it will also take the data, which I'll pass the data. Okay, so let me just put render item here, or row, yeah, anyone. Okay, so in here I can come and say const render item. I hope I said item. Okay, so render item here, and I will receive the item, which will be of type data props, and I'll return. Okay, great. So here I'm going to say return. I do not want to instantly return it because I want to put something. So as a table row, this. Okay, great. So something like this. Okay, so let's get these data props. Here I can come and just say interface data props. Okay, so data props, the data will have the patient. Okay, now okay, so let me say data prop and let me extend it instead. Okay, so extends, I'm going to extend the appointment props from Prisma client. Okay, great. So I'm going to extend that, and as I extend that, I'm going to add the patient, which will be patient also from Prisma client, and also doctor, which is also going to be doctor from Prisma client. Okay, doctor from Prisma client, like this. Okay, so here, okay, so if we check, we'll get the props. Okay, so here we're also going to get the username, so I'll just bring that. So I'm going to get the username by using the item patient first name and last name. I just want to put it like this, right? Okay, I get it once here. Okay, so once I have this, the item needs to have a key. So I'll say the key to be element.id. Okay, and we also can put classes. So the classes will be a border. I think we created one of these tables, so there is no need to repeat a lot of them. Okay, so I'll just bring this, these classes. Okay, so we created one before, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, so let's save time. So I'll just paste and explain. So here I'm also having a table row, and inside this table row, we want to have the patient profile. So you want the profile image, and as I told you, I added background color. So I'm just going to go here and say, okay, it's called color code. So I'll just say what I just did is that the colors that I created for each patient and doctor as well as staff, I'll pass the color here. I'll pass it as color, right? Okay, so once I pass it as color code, maybe I should just change the name to BG color, right? So that we'll know it's for the background, and it should be here. It's a string, it's optional. So once we have it here, we don't have to do anything here. I'm just saying that the background color should be the color this, or if we don't exist, then we use this, right? That's great. So I'm passing it here, okay, as a patient color code, and I'm having a div which takes H3 will take the patient name I have up here, and also the gender of the patient to lowercase. Okay, great, we're making progress. Okay, so here it's saying data. Okay, data can be null. So here what we can do is that we can say that if there is no data, we want to return null. Okay, and I think this will solve the problem here. So we can check. Now we have the patient name with the background color, right? Yes, great. And the other fields are also here. Okay, so the next one will be I'll just be doing copy paste because we've done this. Okay, so render item here. So we're done with the first one. So I'll come with this. So this one is also for the appointment date. So I'm going to use format from date fs here. Great. So I'll put the appointment date and I'll put the format, which should be year, day, and month. Year, month, and day. Okay, great. Okay, so here also will be for the appointment time. Okay, great. So let's see. Okay, so we have the date and the appointment time. Okay, brilliant. Okay, and as I said, I want this to be capitalized. Okay. Okay, so the next thing should be of the doctor. So I'll also bring that of the doctor information. Okay, so here I'm also getting the same profile, passing the doctor image URL and the name of the doctor, as well as the color code of the doctor. And I'm passing the test color of black. Okay, you can pass a test color because by default, the test color here is white, but I'm passing the test color because we said if it exists, we'll add it. If it doesn't, then there is no need. So I'm passing black test color, and I'm putting the name here as well as the specialization. So if I go back, I should have a list of doctors. Okay, great. So have doctors here, and if they have image, it will come. If they don't, then the background color as well as their name and role show. Okay, great. Specialization. So now we have two more, which will be so here another data come down. So now we have the appointment status indicator. If you remember, we have that, so we can just import it and pass the appointment status to it. And we also have some actions. If you remember, we have the view appointment, so we can import it. And now we have other actions here which we need to create. Okay, so let's create this. So with this appointment action, we will pass the user ID, we'll pass the patient ID, we'll pass the doctor ID, the status of the appointment, as well as the appointment ID itself. Okay, so I presume this one does not exist. So let me check if I have the appointment actions. Okay, so I think it's this one. No, okay, it's not this one. Okay, so this is appointment action, and okay, let me make the other one appointment actions. Okay, you can give it a correct name that you want. Okay, so appointment actions. Okay, so this will be the data type. I want to bring it up front. Okay, so appointment action options, right, which will be an async function, and these are the types which we have here, props, right, and here we're using the auth. Okay, so here we're using the auth from collect NextJs server, and we're also using our row, get the row of the user. Once we get that, we're going to use a pop-up. Okay, great. So make sure you install pop-up. So I'm going to say once I have all of this, I can say return pop over. Is it pop over or pop over? I believe. I don't know if I have pop over here. Let's see. Okay, so I think I don't have it, so I'll install it. Okay, so go to chat.cn and get the pop-up. Okay, installation. So you can just here pop over. Okay, great. How to add it here? Grab this. Okay, make sure you come here and create a new terminal. Put this and press enter. So I believe it will be installed. So if I do this, so now that I have that, I can just put the content of the pop over here. Okay, so let's go over it. Okay, so import from UI pop over. Okay, and I'm also importing the pop over trigger, which will help us to open the dialog, right? Okay, so that inside it, I'm just placing this as a child because I'm going to put a button inside it. So button from UI button, and the variant should be outline, and these are the classes, and I'm passing in an icon from Lucid React, right? Great. Down, this is for the trigger, which will help us to open the pop over. Now this is the content. Here is the content. So inside the content, I am giving a width of 56 with a pattern of 3 for top, bottom, and left and right. And I'm placing a div inside it. The div will say perform with a span that say perform action. And these are the various actions. The various actions will be, there's a button which is of type variant ghost with size small, and it will act as a child. Then I'm placing a link component inside it, a link from NextJs, NextLink, and I'm also inside the NextLink, I'm adding an icon from Lucid React, which says view full details, right? Okay. Now here we also want to check. Okay, so these components do not exist for now, so I think I can comment this. Okay, great, they do not exist. Okay, so here what we are doing is that we will be adding other components to either approve the appointment if it's the admin or the doctor, or to cancel it. Okay, great. So I can save this and go back here and now import this. Great. So this should be yeah, I believe this should be it. This should be appointment. If I go here, great, as you see the appointment status as this. Then if I click on this, you can see the pop over. I get the view, but I need to add the rest later. Okay, so there should also be some paginations. Okay, there should be a pagination. So what I'll do is that I'm going to create the pagination component. Okay, so how are we going to show it? So below the table, right, beneath the table, we can say that if the data.length is greater than 0, right, then we want to bring in the pagination, and the pagination will take the total records, which will be the total record, the current page, which will be the current page. We have the structure up here, right? Okay, so the total page is the current page as well as the limit data, and the limit is by default, I think 10. So maybe I can just go inside maybe my utils here. Okay, maybe I can just put it here as settings.ts, and I'll say export cons data limit go to 10. Okay, so maybe you can also have it like this, so that wherever you want to pass the limit, you can just call that one instead, so that once you change it, it can affect all the other pages. So if you want to use it, you can pass it inside this query here by calling that data limit. Okay, so how do we create the pagination? Inside our components, where it's component, okay, components here, I'm going to create pagination.tss rafc. Okay, so rafc. Okay, so I'll say pagination. Okay, so if you remember, this pagination also gets some props or interface. So it's getting the total record, current page, the total pages, as well as the limit. They are all numbers. Okay, so I can just, so we can gather them also here by using the interface, getting all the details. Okay, here we also need some props. I'm sorry, some hooks. And since we are using hooks, this has to be a client component. So the topmost part, let's put use client. So we need use router from okay. Okay, so I'm not getting the suggestion, so I'll just copy and bring it. Okay, great. So we have this, and we can also use that same function we were using to gather the create query. So I'll just bring that, okay, using the use callback. So import this from React. We are using the same thing to also create the query links, right? Okay. And here we're also using handle. In case you want to go to previous page, we just have to get, the query, right? And just subtract one from it, then we push to the previous page. And this will also be used for the next page, right? Okay, so if we want to go to the previous page, we check the current page. If the current page is greater than 1, meaning you can go to the previous page. If it's not, you can go to the previous page. Okay, because so here we use the create query and we use the current page, then we subtract 1 from it, then we go to the next previous page. And here we also check if the total pages is still less than the current page, right? If it's so, then we push to the next page by adding 1 to the current page. Okay, great. So here, what we can do again is we can check if total records is equal to 0. So if total records is equal to 0, there is no need to show the pagination because there is nothing to navigate, right? So we just put return now there. Okay, so now let's get some classes for this. It's going to have a pattern of 4. It's going to be flex. The item is going to be center and justify to between, right? As well as tests of gray dash 600, right? And a margin top of 5. Inside this, we'll have a bottom from UI component slash UI. So okay, make sure this is button. Okay, so it's not coming, so I'm just going to say import. So I'm going to import from ./UI/button, and I'm importing our button. Okay, great. So the button here will have a size of SM small. It will have a variant of outline, and it will be disabled will be equal to when current page, right, is equal to 1. If current page is equal to 1, we disable it. And on click, I'm going to call the handle previous. Okay, so this, I'm going to call this function here. Okay, let's also give some classes. So py of 2, px of 4, rounded dash md. Okay, background that's slate dash 200, text dash sm. Okay, font dash semi bold. Great. On disable, I'm going to say cursor dash not allowed, and on disabled, I'm going to reduce the opacity to 50. So maybe 50. Okay, great. Okay, so inside this, we can put the test pref or previous. Yes, okay. So now we can also have similar one for the next one, which this will be handle next rate. And when this is equal to total pages here, when it's equal to total pages, when it's equal to total pages, then it should be disabled. Okay, and I think the classes will be same, and this will be next. Okay, now inside this, right? Okay, pagination. Great, let's import it here and see. Not this. Okay, so pagination, I believe the name is pagination. So okay, so pagination. Okay, it's not coming. I don't know why. Maybe I need to restart my IDE. So I will just say, I'm going to say import from /. Okay, so I'm going to say this /components/pagination. Okay, so pagination. Okay, great. So this will be pagination. Okay, so let's check and see. Okay, yeah, okay, so now I can see pagination here. So 9, I can see this, and I can also see next year. But we want to show the test in the middle. So the test in the middle can be pretty simple. Okay, so I'll just, okay, so the test in the middle, I'm having a div with flex item center and gap2 test small with a span tag. And inside the span tag, we're going to say showing, then in parentheses, we're going to say showing current page times the limit, right? Okay, so the limit is 10. So the current page, let's say the current page is 0 or 1. So 1 times the limit will be 10, right? Minus the limit minus 1. Okay, so just look at the query very well, you understand. So this times, okay, let me do the illustration here. So current page times the limit will give you 10, right? Then we want to subtract limit minus 1, which is limit minus 1 is 10 minus 1, which will give you 9, right? Okay, great. So if we do this, right, this will be equal to 10 minus 9, which is 1, right? Okay, so it will say showing 1 out, 1, 2, then 2, then this one will be current times this, which is 10. And we're saying that if the 10 is less than the total records, right? So if it's less than the total records, meaning let's say the total records are 9. So if it is less than that, then we're going to say that if it's less than that, then we're going to say that the current times limit, right? Okay, so if it's less than the current times limit will be 10, this will be 10, right? Then we'll use the 10. But if current times limit is, let's say 10, and this is 9, meaning this condition is false, then we'll use the total record. Then we'll use 9 instead of 10, because we can't use 10 because our items does not reach 10. They are 9. So we'll just say 1 to 10 or 1 to 9 of then the total record. So let's say the total record is 10. So we'll just say 1 to 9 of 9, right? So if it is 10, we'll just say, let's just say we have 20 records. So we'll just say 1 out of 10, right? Because 1 to 10, because here will be 1 and here will be, this condition will be true. So we just say this times this, which will be 1 times 10, which will be 10, then it will be here. When it goes to the second page, then here will be 10, because this will be page 2, this will be 10. So 2 times this, 10 will be 20, right? 20 minus the limit, which is 10 minus 1, which is 9. So 20 minus 9, we'll get 11. Okay, so once we get 11, so here will be 11. Okay, and this side will be that 2 times 10, which is 20, and 20 is less than or equal to, it's equal to. So if it is equal to, then we'll just say 2 times 10, which will be 20. Then we'll put 20 also here. I hope I've been able to explain for you to understand it. Okay, so if we go back here, we should see the number of records. So we say showing 1 to 9 out of 9. So the records are just 9. So 1 at, right. Okay, great. So this is it, and I want to believe if we search, it should work. So I'm going to put just any name and see. Great, so it works. Okay, and you can see that the query is also here. Okay, so we have an error. That's a hydration error. Error was from the table here, right? So make sure that you wrap the no data found with the table data, not inside the table row direct like that. Okay, so that was where the hydration error was coming from. So we can check and see. Let me reload. Okay, so let's search again and see. Okay, so you can see that error is gone. Okay, great. So let's look at how we can add appointment. Okay, so I'll close most of the things and leave this. Okay, so inside the component, I'm going to add forms. Then inside the forms, I'll just say book appointment.tss. So RFC, okay, which I'll just say book appointment. Okay, so the reason I'm going to use the appointment container is that this page here, because we are going to have interactions, will be a use client component, but I want to have a use server component so that I can fetch the doctor's information, right? So that the user can select a doctor. So I'm going to say that appointment container.tss RFC. So appointment container. Okay, great. So this, I will import it from here. Great. Appointment container, which I'm passing the user ID. So here, so if I come here, right? So inside here, now I can return the book appointment container from here. And here also, I think I can also pass the data of the doctors that I'm going to fetch, as well as the okay, let me pass the doctors as doctors. Okay, great. And this data will be the patient information. Okay, so let's do it. So this will be a client, sorry, a server-side component. So I'll put async here, and I'm going to say just data equal to await get patient by ID. We have that function, and I'll just put in the ID that I'll receive. Okay, so here I'm going to receive an ID, and the ID will be of type string. Oh, okay, sorry, it should be like this. Okay, so the ID will be of type string, great, like this. Okay, so we'll fetch the information of the patient, right? And that is what we'll pass here, and also pass the doctor. So in the doctors, maybe let's go into the utils services, and let's add another one called doctors or doctor.ts. So I'll just copy one of this. So I'm just going to copy one of these like this, bring it to doctors here, and I'll do this by saying get doctors. And here I don't think we'll need an ID, so ID is not important. Okay, and here will db import db dot doctors. Okay, and there is no need of where condition. We'll just fetch doctors. So okay, so this is why many. Okay, great, like this. So find many. We want to find all doctors, and just say here should be data. If there is no data, okay, now then we can return data here. Okay, that's right. Or we can even remove this like this. Okay, great. So we can come back to the container here, and also say cons data, then rename it as doctors. Should be await get doctors. Okay, like this. Great. So that's it. So maybe I can just say this and see. Oh, okay, let's go and first accept the props here. Okay, so here, so what I can say is that I'm gonna say we'll get types of data, which will be that of patient. So this, and also get doctors, which will be type of doctors, and an array. Okay, so something like this. So get data and doctors. Okay, so let me also put this and ensure it. Okay, and I also put exclamation mark here to ensure that it exists here. Okay, great. So let's see what is the error we have here. Okay, so this is supposed to be ID. Yes, great, like this. Okay, so now we have it here, and I want to believe, so now we fed the doctor's information, so now we come here. Okay, so here we'll get some props. So I'll just bring some of them. So we need some state variables, right? So we use state. This from React. Okay, so we also need distance here. Okay, so I also have the physicians. So with the physicians will be the doctors here, right? Okay, so let me also import router from Nest navigation. Great. And also this function will help us to generate the time, the appointment time. So I'll just go and bring that. I'll go inside my utils and index. Okay, so I'll put that one also here. So this will just take the start hour and the closing hour, right? And the interval. Okay, so we'll take this and just generate a time from that using an interval that we have provided. And okay, so I also need this format time. Okay, so some of these things you can just use ChatGPT or any AI tool to generate these things. Okay, so I'll put this one instead. Great. So yes, I am just using the time, just formatting it to AM or PM. Okay, so this is just a pretty simple function that you can use AI to generate. So I'll just import this from here. Okay, I generated the time. Okay, so this will help us to generate the time. So, and let's also get the form. Let's create an instance of the form using React hook form. and also we'll need the appointment schema using Zord validation. Okay, so Zord resolvers, and each appointment will have the patient ID, sorry, the doctor ID, will have the appointment date, the time, the type of appointment, and if there be a note, we'll also have the note. Okay, so we can just go into our schema. Okay, so our schema file here, and can also add the appointments. So I say you have doctor ID, which will be a string. The type will either be, the type will also be the type of appointment, which is also a string, the date, and the time, as well as if there's a note optional. Okay, so I can say here and come and import it here. Okay, so here we can continue. So here I want to put a cons on submit. Okay, so just put this here for now. Okay, so let's continue. Let's do the form. Now in this form, we are going to use the sheet that we have installed from the beginning. So import sheet from UI/sheet. Okay, and also it also follows the same pattern. So we'll need the trigger. So I'll put the trigger from here. Okay, great. I'll bring the trigger and it will add as a child, and I'll also bring the button from UI/, and I also put an icon in it, which is from Lucid React. Okay, so I believe we should be good. We're going. Okay, so we have a warning, and okay, so here we need to import Z from Zord. Okay, great. So make sure you import Z from Zord. So if we go back here, okay, we have imported it. We've also imported it here. So if we go, perhaps we should see it here. Great. So if I click on this, okay, there's nothing showing because we do not have content. Okay. So after the trigger, now we're going to have the sheet content. You can use the dialog if you want to use the dialog. Okay, great. But I prefer the sheet. I'm going to say it should be rounded Excel. This was giving me an issue, so I also make sure I put the rounded dash right to Excel. Great. Okay, I'm going to give a height for the on medium. I'm going to give a height of 95%. So a height of 95% on medium. On medium also, I'm going to say the top should be it should come top of 2.5%. Okay, and on MD right will also be of 1%. Then I'll have a width of full. Okay. Okay, so yes, so on medium, I don't want it to take the entire screen. I want it to take 90%. The top should come down of 2.5 and right of 1%. Okay, you can also use pixels if you want to. Okay, here I'm going to check if it's loading. Right, so if it is loading, then I'm going to put a div, and in that div, okay, so in that div, what I'll do is I'll just say a span tag that says loading. So I'm going to say flex items to center and justify to also center and height of full. Okay, I just want to put a loading test. Okay, so okay, loading. But if it is not loading, okay, so let me change this to a div, and let's say that it should take the height of full. Overflow should be auto. Yeah, let me be specific. Overflow of y should be auto. Okay, and the pattern should be 4. Now let's give the header. Okay, so the header will be that title or header. They will put the title. Okay, you also have the description, so you can put a description if you want. Okay, so now this is what we have. Okay, great. So if I click, it says a book appointment, and I can close it. Great. So we're going to follow the same drill as we created the form. So here I'm going to import form from UI form. Great. And I'm going to spread the form instance that we created. Okay, I hope it's imported. Okay, yeah, it will take now I'm going to put the HTML form tag inside it, and on submit I'm going to say that form.handle. Okay, so the form that we created instance handle submit has the handle submit inside it. They will pass our function on submit to it. Okay, so this function we have created up here. Okay, so something like this. Okay, so maybe we can provide some classes to this form. we're going to say space of y of 8, right, empty of 5, and on 2xl empty of 10. Okay, great. So inside this, you know the drill how we're doing it. So I'll just be quick on that because we've created forms again. So okay, so I'll bring this div. Inside this div, I'm going to import the profile image container. Then I'll pass the patient name, which will be inside the data. So inside the data dot image, also here inside the data dot name, and also here to pass the color code. Okay, so one thing I can do is to say I can get the patient name. So I'm going to say patient name should be equal to something like this. Okay, so here I'm getting the patient name. So I'll just put this, then I'll put this one here. Okay, so I can put exclamation mark here, and this one will also put this to ensure that it exists. Okay, so here I also say data. Sorry, I need to put the patient name. So patient name, and here data dot gender. Okay, so this will help us get the patient information. Okay, we can quickly check. Okay, so profile information does not exist. I believe we have imported it. So let's reload and see. Okay, so we have the patient, the name, and the gender here. Okay, so we can be quick with the rest because we have created forms again and again. So I'll just bring this. So after this here, great. I put this, import the component that we've created. Okay, so I just created a dummy types of appointment types, right? So I just have general consultation, this checkups, or that's what I have. So you can also make it dynamic to come from your database, and we are saying it should be a select. We're passing them, and we just getting the information. We've created forms over and over, so I think by now you should know how we create forms. Okay, great. Okay, I will also bring another one. Okay, so here, okay, let's go over this one. So here we importing form field, which will be coming from UI-form. We're passing the form control that we created, and we say this is going to be a doctor ID, and we want to render this component. So we destructure the field. Yes, you are aware how we create these forms. So I'll import form item and also the form label. And we're just saying that physician. So you need to select the physician. The reason I'm not using this is that I want to pass a different content, right, or children. That's why I didn't use the custom one. We could have used it, but let's continue for simplicity's sake. So I also import select from UI select, and I'm saying that on value change we call this, and on default, the default should also be the value, and it disable it when we are submitting. We disable it. Okay, so form control, import form control, import the select trigger from UI select, the select value also here from UI select, and now the select content also from UI select, and the select item itself. Okay, so here we're mapping over the physicians that we have up here. That is the doctor, right? We're mapping over it. Okay, so we're mapping over it, and when we map over it, we want to return a div, and the div will have the profile image passing in the information. They will also render the name and the specialization. Okay, and we can also render the form message here. Okay, great. So we can go see it. Yeah, so we have the type here. You can select the type, whichever type it is, right? Great. And we also have the various physicians also here. Great. Is that not great? Good. So you select one, then it'll just show inside like this. Beautiful. Okay, let's continue. So I think I can just bring the rest. So after this form input, I'll just bring another one. So I'll bring the rest. The rest will be inside this div. We have this to show the appointment date, right? Passing the type as input and the input type as date. This one also help us to select the type, right? So we'll pass the appointment time here, the one we generated up, and this one will be the additional note. If the patient want to attach any relevant note, they can put the note here. Then we have a button here, which I can import. Okay, I think we have button already, and just pass it as what submit. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I have it simple like this, right? So if I click here, okay, so the validations work. So I think the note is not working because perhaps we do not have test area. So maybe, yes, let's go inside here and see if we have test area. I don't think we have test area. Okay, so we can quickly do that. So maybe here here I'm going to return a case of test area. So make sure you have test area installed. If you don't have it, just go to chat C and then install it, right? So we can return a test area. Okay, so let's go see. Okay, so we have the test area input here. Okay, maybe we can just put the title as placeholder. We can also put here maybe additional note. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so now let's come to the submit function. How can we submit it? Okay, so it's pretty simple. We've done that again and again, so there is no need to waste time. Okay, so I'll just replace this. Okay, so we are saying that we're saying function and we're using the submit handler from let's import it from React hook form, right? And we're using the z.infer to make sure that it goes according to our type, right? Our schema. Okay, we'll get the values here and we'll set it submitting to true and we'll form the new data. Okay, so the new data that we'll form is that we're saying that new data should be the values received. Then we'll say the patient ID should be the data.id because the data contains the patient. So we'll put the patient ID in there. Okay, and here I can put this to ensure that it exists. I hope it is called data. Yeah, okay, data. Okay, great. Oh, okay, so it's saying data is used before, so I can put this here. Okay, so we need to create this function. Okay, so we need to create this function, right? So once we have this function, it goes through, then we'll just have to pop the notice that it has been successful. Okay, great. So how do we create this function? So we'll go back to the appointment inside the actions. Where do we have our actions? Actions and appointment. Okay, so where do we have the appointment? This is appointment action. Maybe we can just duplicate it. And then this should be create appointment. Okay, so the create appointment will take data. So let's say it will take data and I want to set the type to any. Okay, so remove this. So okay, type of any. So here I first let me validate the data. So I'm just going to say cons validated data, right, should be equal to appointment schema. Great. Then I'll just say dot pass. So here save pass, they will pass in the data that we have received. Okay, so if you check it, it's either going to return whether it's successful or not, right? So we return the data itself and whether it is success or not. Okay, so what we can do is that we can now say that cons validated should be equal to validated dot data, right? So this will help us to get the validated data. So okay, great. So what we can do is we can say that if validated data dot success, right, meaning it's true, meaning it's successful, that it passes the validation. But if it does not pass, so I'm going to put not here, right? If it does not pass, we can return information to the user that okay, so failed invalid data, perhaps that's pretty cool. Okay, but if it passes, okay, then we can go ahead and just say data. Okay, I'm going to say appointment. Okay, so I think I have this. Let me see if it's correct. Okay, so here I'm going to say that await appointment of create, then patient ID will be because this schema does not have patient ID in it. When we pass it, we will not get the patient ID inside this data here. So this data will not contain the patient ID, right? Okay, that is why we're getting an error here. So in order to get the patient ID, we can use this data up here and get the patient ID from that data, right? Okay, great. But the doctor ID will be inside this data, validated data. And we also have the time. So here, I believe it is time. Okay, great. And what again? Status is not needed because by default it will be pending. We also have type. Okay, so I believe so. We also have the appointment date. Okay, which I'm going to make sure is a date. So I'll just say this, say validate dot appointment date. Great. And what again is left note. I'm just going to say note should be note. I think it's note. Okay, so note will also be note. So once this goes through successfully, there is no even, I don't think there is a need to return it. We can just return the information that appointment has been booked successfully. Okay, so we can just save this. Okay, should we need appointment? Now, we will not, I don't think we'll need the data. We will not need it. So we can remove it. Okay, great. So here we can now import this from here. Great. So make sure you save this and also save this. Okay, so this is also an async function. So we're getting a little bit error. Okay, so it's gone. Okay, so now let's try and see. So once it goes through, just reset the form and use the router to refresh the page in order to get the updated data or information. Okay, so I want to reload first. Okay, so let's test it and see. Okay, so if I click here, validations are working. So I'll just select, consultation. I'll select doctor. I'll select the date of, let's say this. I'll select time, this. I'll just put additional note. Okay, so I'll just press this and let's see if it goes through. Okay, so now it goes through successfully, right? Okay, and now you can see that we have 10 records here. Great. So 1 to 10 out of 10. So in order to check our pagination, I want to create another one. Select a different doctor. Date, I'm going to put it over here. Time here, and just push it through and let's see. Great. So now you see we have 11, but we have 1 to 10 out of 11. So if I go here, let's hope the pagination works. Great. And now we have the last record here. Great. Okay. So this is it. And I think if you click here, you should be able to view it like this. Great job. Okay. Okay, so now we're almost done. So let's do this, cancel the appointment start. Okay, so yeah, so we only have this. Okay, so let's do that. So if we go inside the appointment here, I think I can close most of them. Okay, so I said this one here. Yes. So inside this is where we have this and that. So they are the same component, appointment action dialog. So maybe let's create a component, appointment action dialog.tss rafc. Okay, so appointment action dialog. Okay, so maybe I can now import it. Okay, so I import this and also uncomment this. Okay, so I'll bring the types. Okay, so this will be the types. So here, okay, I say action props. Okay, so now the types will be the type, ID, and disabled. Okay, great. So this will be the types. Oh, okay, great, like this. Okay, so once we get it, we also need to bring some hooks. So I'll bring these hooks, which means we ought, sorry, from next navigation, meaning we ought to also make this a use client component. Okay, import this from React. Okay, great. Okay, so here I'll turn this to a dialog. Make sure you import it from UI. Okay, so inside this we'll also bring the trigger again. So we'll bring the trigger, so dialog trigger in from UI dialog. Okay, and we're going to say that it should be a child and it should be disabled if disabled is true. And we're going to use a button, so button from UI button, and the size is small, the variant is ghost, and these are the classes. And I'm using this icon of check from Lucid React. Okay, which will be for the approved. So if the type is approved, then we'll show this button, else we show this for cancel. So this cancel icon. Okay, so I import this icon, an icon of band from Lucid React. Okay, great. Now after the button, or the trigger, we need to bring the dialog content. Okay, content UI from UI dialog. Okay, then we'll put in a div. Great, so this div. Okay, so we'll put in a div, right? a div with class flex column item center and justify center the pattern y of 6. Okay, then we need to put in the dialog title. So the title also will be conditional. Okay, so we're going to render the title based on the type. So if the type is approved, we're going to say that approved by using this icon from okay, I think I use some icons from React icons. So in order to avoid that, I'm going to just install React icons. Okay, so I'm just going to install React icons. Okay, so that I can use these icons from React icons. You can also search for it equivalent from Lucid React. Okay, so this icon will come from React icon. So I'll just come here and say import this from React-icons/gi. Okay, great. So if it's approved, we'll show this icon with color of green, and if it's cancelled, we'll show this icon. Okay, so md cancel. I also just okay, so md. Okay, they also show this. So maybe we can just see it here. Okay, so okay, I can cancel my appointment. Okay, but I think I can cancel. Okay, let me reload and see. Okay, so let's check and see. So here, okay, so now I can't do approve nor cancel my appointment, but I think I should be able to cancel the pending one. Should I want to do it myself? So maybe we can go here, right? So here we check that it should be disabled if admin. Okay, so if admin is true, pass through, or if here the user ID is equal to the doctor ID, here will also be true. So if it comes here, we're accepting the yes this, and we're passing the negation, right? Okay, so when it is true, then we just send it to false. Okay. Okay, so here, okay, it's in this component here. Okay, yes. So here, I'm going to say it's admin. So okay, so here it's admin, it's false, right? So it will be false. So and this the user is not also the doctor. So here will be false, and we turn it to true. Okay, but here it's admin is also false, right? Okay. Or the doctor can also cancel it. Or should we also make it that the user can cancel it? That is, if the user ID equal to let's see, equal to what? Equal to the appointment. Okay, so equal to the patient ID. Okay, I guess so. We can say patient ID and see. Okay, so if one of this is true, then we should be able to cancel it. Okay, great. So we should be able to cancel it like this. Great. Okay, but you can see that even all those that are cancelled already, right? They also say you can still cancel them. So I think one condition that we can put is, first we need to check if the status. So status. Do we have the status? Is equal to pending. Okay, so if the status is pending, and okay, great, then we check one of these, right? So always we'll check if the status is pending before we check one of these. You can only cancel if the status is pending, right? Okay, so let's see if it works. Okay, so here okay, so here you should be able to cancel. Let's see. Okay, so oh, I think let me reload and see. Okay, so now you can see that if it's pending, you'll be able to cancel it, but if it's cancelled already, you can't cancel it. And if it's also scheduled, you can cancel it. Yeah, and even if it's completed, you can cancel it. Okay, so you can play around it here like that. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so now that we have the title, we can just give a span tag with a paragraph tag as well below the title. Okay, so below the title like this, I'm going to show this. which will say appointment, then the type, right? Appointment, if the type is equal to approve, so appointment confirmation. If it's not, then means it's cancelled, then appointment cancellation, right? Then we just put the note based on the type. Okay, great. So then we can also put conditionally render an input container, right? Okay, so we'll render a test input based on the type. So if it's cancelled, we'll render test area, so that you put the reason for the cancellation, right? Great, you put the reason for cancellation, and we just set the reason into the reason state variable here. Okay, once we're done with that, now we can bring the button. Okay, so I'll just bring the button here. Okay, and let's go over it. So we have a div, and now we have a button, and the button will have this handle action, right? So based on, okay, we can also import the cn function helper u2. Okay, right? So it has a disable of loading. It has on click of handle action, and the variant of outline, and these are the classes. And here we're also using the close trigger from the dialog UI dialog, right? UI dialog, and we're placing the button so that should you click on no, it will just close the dialog. Okay, so here we can put the const handle submit. Okay, like this. Great. Okay, so in here now we can see the outcome. Let's see. Okay, so now we have it like this. If it's cancellation, then I need to give the reason why I want to cancel the appointment. If it's if it's approval, okay, we don't have approval because I can't approve it, you know. Okay, so the handle submit also similar handler, right? Like those that we've done before. So I can just put it here. Okay, then we go through. Okay, so we are saying that if the type is equal to cancel and there is no reason, right? We just want a toast that you need to provide a reason why you are canceling the appointment, so that should in case the doctor cancels it, the patient can see and know why the appointment has been cancelled. Okay. Now in a try catch, we'll set the loading to true, and now we form a reason why we want to cancel it. Okay, I think we did one of these. So here we just call the appointment action, and we have it in our actions, right? Okay, like this, and we just pass the ID and we pass the type. So if it is approved, then we say schedule. If it's cancelled, then we leave it to cancel. Then we'll put a reason. Okay, so once it goes through, then we just give a pop message and just refresh. Okay, great. So let's go try it and see. So I'm going to try to cancel one of the appointments that I have. Okay, so I'll say I won't be available on that date. Okay, so I'll just push this and let's see if it goes through. So it goes through successfully, and now the appointment has been cancelled. Okay, great. Great job. Okay, so now this is it. So now let's go to the profile page. Okay, so I'll try here, profile page. Okay, this will take time. So okay, let's go to the profile page. Okay, so the profile page does not exist, so let's create it. Okay, so I think I can close all of this, and inside the patient here I'll put square bracket and just say patient ID. Okay, so this means this route will be dynamic. The test in the square bracket will be the ID, right? And I just say page.tss. So we can just visit any route with that by passing the user ID, right? Okay, and we'll fetch the information. Okay, so I will call it profile. Maybe, okay, let me say patient profile. Okay, great. So if we check here, maybe we can reload. So we go to patient, then the ID. So in case this is for myself, so that's why I have self, right? Or if it's a different patient, then we have the ID of the patient here. Okay, so we have the profile page here. Okay, so here we're also gonna need the params, which we've created one before. Okay, so here we'll need the search params, right, which will be of this type. It's a promised. Okay, great. And we'll also need other params, right? We can pass other params like the patient ID. Okay, so we can pass queries in here, right? And we can also pass the ID, the patient ID, which is this one here. Okay, so here what I can say is I can just say props should be params props. Okay, great. So here now we can say that cons search params should be await, okay, props dot search params. Okay, like this. And we need to make this an async. Okay, great. We can also get the params itself by also saying await props dot params. Okay, great. So far so good. Then we can get the ID by saying params dot patient ID. Great, like this. Okay, now we can also get the category. Should there be search params of category? So search params dot cat. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it cat, and if it doesn't exist, I'll just set it default to medical history. Okay, so maybe I can put a question mark here. Great. So medical history. Okay, great. Okay, so let me change this to be a let condition, and let me also duplicate it one more time, and I'm going to call this patient ID. You understand why I want to do that? Okay, so because we are going to use this page for multiple purpose, I'll first have to check if the patient ID, right, equal to self. So if equal to self mean it is me, so I'm just going to fetch the user from here. I'll say user equal to await. Okay, so here I'm going to fetch the user ID. So I'm going to say this, I'll say await, then auth, great. I get a user ID from here. Then I will just say that ID should be equal to user ID. Okay, great. Right, so if it's self, then I'll just change this ID to this. Okay, so what is it saying? It could be null, so I'll just put this here and make sure it exists. Okay, if not that, then I'll just say ID should be equal to the patient ID. Okay, meaning, yeah, we have a particular ID that we want to search or get information about. Okay, so great. So let's go on. So I'm going to change this div and apply some classes to it. So I'm applying a background of white of 100, gray 100, right? Or we can change it to white, height of full, rounded XL, PX6 and PY6, PX3. Okay, so PX of 6 here, flex column, and on large it should be flex row. Okay, and a gap of 6. Okay. So this is going to be two sides. So I'm just going to say this and that. Okay, so one side will be for the details and the other side will be for the various links. Okay, so let's give some classes. I'm going to say this should be width of full normally, and on Excel it should be 3 out of 4. Okay, great. So 3-4. Okay, then this one we can also say it should be width of full, but on Excel it should be 1/4, 1/3. I'll put it this side. Okay, great. You could have also used percentages. Okay, yeah. So let's work on the user details. Okay, so now that we have all of this information, now we can fetch the user data using the ID that we have. So let's fetch it here. We'll say await get patient full data by ID. They will pass the ID here. And this function does not exist for now, so let's go work on it. Okay, so you know the drill of how we do it. So just go inside the utils services, and it's about patient. So here, and I want to put it here. Okay, so this is it. We're saying get patient by ID, right? So we say that we get the patient, go into the patient folder. I want to get the first, right? Okay, we can also use, I think we can also use unique, right? But the first will get us one record which matches the ID, the first one. Okay, great. We're using where condition using or either the ID or email, right? Okay, so if we have the email or the ID, we can search any of them, but I think mostly we'll be searching with the ID. Okay, and we want to include count. So we want to count the appointment that the patient have, right? So we're using this to count the appointment of the patient. And you know that the patient is connected to the appointment. Okay, we want to count all the appointments of the patient. Then we also want to select the appointment. So we'll select the appointment date. So the appointment that we'll select only the date. And here we'll order the appointment that we are selecting by date and just take one. We want to get the last appointment, which is the recent one. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. Okay, after that, then we just check the patient and we check the last visit, right? So the last visit will be the patient information that we have, or the appointment, which is this, right? And the appointment date. So the first index, because we want to take only one. So the first index, which is index 0, will get a date. If it does not exist, we'll just say now. They'll return the data. The data will consist of the patient. Then we just do this as the total appointment, which will be the patient or the count. This count, right, of the appointment. We just get it here. Then we put the last visit also here. Okay, great. So that is it. I'll just save, come here and make sure to import it. Let's, oh, great. Okay, great. So now that we have this, okay, so let's continue. So now I'll just bring a card. Okay, so inside this, I'll put a card coming from Shatcn. So that's the card. So make sure import card from UI, component UI. Okay, great. Now inside it, I'll bring the okay, so here, okay, so here we're using the profile again and again. So I'll just bring the profile. Okay, great. And here we can also pass the BG color, great, which will be of data dot color code. Okay, and I put exclamatory to make sure it exists. And we're also passing the name of the patient here and also the email address. Then in a div also we put in the total appointment, right, and right under it appointment. Okay, great. I hope this should work. Let's see. Okay, so we have the name and the total appointment of 11 with the email address. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so below this card, I'll bring another card. Okay, so card. Okay, great. And inside this card, let's have a div. Okay, with classes. So this will be flex of column. Okay, on MD, I will say flex of row. Okay, row. On MD, flex of wrap. Okay, great. And on MD, also items to center. Okay, great. Now inside this, we're going to put some small cards. So I'll just bring the small card that I have. Okay, so I'll just put it somewhere here. Okay, so I'm going to put a small card here. So I'm just saying small card where I'll put the label and the value, right? And it will be string. This will also be a string. And this is what I'll return. I'll return a span type, which will be the label, and a paragraph, which will contain the value. Okay, so here I'm just going to be calling the small cards and just pass the information to it. Okay, I think let me extend this styles. I'll just say Excel, also justify to be between. Okay, let me put a gap of 4. And let me put a gap of y of 4, and also MD a gap of x of 0, like this. Okay, great. So inside here, I'm just going to call the small card, right? Small card. Then I'll put the label, which will be equal to, the first one will be gender. Okay, so the first one will be gender. And let me look at the value. So the value will be data.gender, right? Okay, so I can say dot to lowercase, Okay, great. So I can put exclamatory to make sure it exists. Okay, so let's check it. Okay, so we have it here. Okay, great. Okay, so it should be somewhere here. So let's check the styling. Okay, so here, this one. Okay. So as we have the width of full. Okay, so I guess I should put the whole of this inside another div, like this. Okay, so let's start this one, which will have a width of full. It should be flex and a flex column, LG, flex row, and a gap of 4. Okay, great. Okay, so we have it here, gender, and the gender is here. Okay, great. So the next one should be, I can just duplicate this and say the next one will be phone number, and this one it's not needed. Okay, so I'll just say phone. Great. So I have this, right? Good. So I'm just going to duplicate another one. Okay, so this will be in another div, right? So this will be on one line, and this 3 will also be on another line. So I think, okay, so here's 3 and here's 2. So let me put another one for the date of birth. Okay, so I'm going to say format format using the fns function, right? And pass the date. Then I will put the format as this. Okay, great. Okay, so we have 3 will be on each row. Okay, so we have this, then we have the date of birth, great, then we have the contact number also here. Okay, great. So let's see this. Okay, so I think there is an issue with the height and the width, I mean to say. Okay, so let me check. Okay, so let's continue. When I find out, I'll let you know. Okay, so after this 3, I'll put another one, okay, which will still be inside that same card, but below this div, I'll just put another one. So here we have this 3 again, right? So this one will be for contact person, then the contact person name, as well as the contact person number will be here. And this will be for the last visit. So I'll also still use the date format function from the date f. Okay, div fns. So if it exists, then we'll put it. If not, then we'll just say there is no last visit. Okay, great. Now, after we're done with that, we can now show below this card one div, right? But still, yes, so below this card one div, great. So yes, and we'll just show another div, and that div will have a class of margin top of 10, great. And now we're going to check if the category exists, right? If the category is equal to medical history, okay, then we'll render that component. Okay, and the component will be medical history container. Okay, so medical history container, and we'll just pass the patient ID. Okay, great. So this one does not exist, so I can comment it for now. And I'll just also bring another one. Should we have, if the category is also equal to payment, then I'll just show payment information like that. Okay. Okay, so this is what we have now. Okay, great. Okay, so I think the issue is from here. So high a width of 1/3. So let's see if we fix the issue. Okay, great. So now we have it like this. Okay, so this will help us show the medical history, but then let's check on the right before we go to the medical history and payments. Okay, so inside this, I'll have a div with classes. Okay, so the classes will be BG of white, okay, P04, rounded dash MD, and margin bottom of also 8. Okay, great. And I'm going to put a title, and the title will just say quick links. Okay, within the quick links, okay, so these are just links, so I can just copy and paste them. Okay, so I have a bunch of links. So link import from next link, right? And I'm passing the href. This will go to the appointment. Then I'll pass in the patient ID, okay, which is the ID, and I'll just say patient appointment. Okay, and the next one goes to the medical records, and that one we are just attaching a search query of medical history. So we'll not just move to any page, but we'll just attach a query. This also will attach a query of payment, that's for medical bills, and this will go back to the dashboard. This will also go for labs, and if the patient ID is equal to self, then we can bring this information that edit information, that you can edit your information. Okay, then if you remember, I think we have the rating container, so we can bring it. So make sure maybe I can toggle this. Make sure you have 2 divs below. So like this, we are on level 2. Then you can bring the patient rating container and just pass in the ID, which will be the ID. Okay, great. And just put exclamation mark to tell it that it exists. Okay, was it accepting an ID? I'm not sure. It wasn't. Okay, so here, the rating container. Okay, so we can make it accept an ID, right? Because we want to use it, we want it to be dynamic, use it for other purposes. So I'll say the ID will be optional, which will be a string. Okay, great. And here, okay, so the where condition, okay, so patient ID. So I'll first check if this ID exists. I'll show that ID, else I'll put the user ID. Okay, great. I want to believe that's all. We can go back here and yeah, okay. Okay, so it's now certified. So let's go back and see. So we have the links here, right? Okay, and we do not have, okay, we have ratings. Okay, great. Okay, so now left with this. Okay, let's finish that one pretty quick. Okay, so medical history. So inside the components here, I'm going to put medical history container.tss refc medical history container. Okay, so here we can now import it safely. Okay, so in here we also have interface. So the interface will be the ID and the patient ID. So if you go here, you see we have the patient ID. Okay, great. Okay, so here I can say yeah, let's get the ID. So I will just say this. Okay, it should be data props. Okay, so here we can get the ID as well as the patient ID. Okay, something like this. Great. And this is going to be an async function. So a server side, so async, we can say async function here. Now we can also, as I told you, we can also fetch the information from here without placing it in a service or util file. So we can just say data should be equal to await, because this is a server-side component DB, and make sure you import it dot medical, great, medical records dot find many, great. And we can now put the query here where patient ID, great, patient ID, great, is equal to patient ID. So as usual, we can include the records that we'll need. So we include the diagnosis, right? And inside the diagnosis, we'll also include, you know, every diagnosis has a doctor. So we'll include the doctor that performed the diagnosis. So we just set it true, right? Okay, so here we want to include the diagnosis. And inside the diagnosis is connected to the doctor. So we also want to get a doctor that performed that diagnosis. I hope you understand. Okay, we can also include lab test, right, and set it to true. Great. And after all of this, we can say we want to order by, we can order by the created at date, which will be in descending order. Okay, great. So once we get this, perhaps we can just pass it to the component, that is the medical history component. Okay, so medical history. And now we can pass data as data, right? It's show. I'm going to put a condition that's called its show profile. Its show profile. Then I'll say it should be false. I don't want to show the profile. Okay, so let me create the medical history. So medical-history.tss refc medical history. Okay, great. Okay, so here let me also bring the interfaces. Okay, so here I'm extending the medical records. So this will be coming from Prisma client. I'm extending it and adding the patient, the diagnosis. So patient also from Prisma client, diagnosis, which will be an array from Prisma client, as well as the lab test, which will also be from Prisma client. Okay, and an index of optional, which is a number. Then I also have this data prop where I'll put the data and just put the extended, right, interface here, and I'll say a show profile should be a boolean. Okay, so here I can just say data props, and in here I'm going to get the data and its show profile. Okay, great. So I can import this here now. Great. So yeah, so it's here. Okay, so I can close this. Okay, so inside this page we'll also have a couple of columns. So this time I'll place it inside here because I'm going to use this as show profile. So if its show profile is true, then we want to show the profile image. If not, we hide it. Okay, so that's the meaning of this one. Okay, great. And this is also a table we're going to create, and we've created tables before, so I'll just bring it like this. Okay, so here we're also using our title style, you know, so I've just import this icon and import the table from table/table, and now I need to bring the render table. Okay, so the render table will also be pretty simple because we've done that over and over again. Okay, so let's go over it. Okay, so we are saying the render row should be the get item, which will be of type the extended medical history props, right? Okay, that's why we made this separate so that we can reuse it here. Okay, so here we render the table row and we should ID and also want to put the user information here. Okay, so if this does not, if this is false, then we'll not render it. If it's true, then we'll show it. Okay, great. And here we also want to format date and time. So let me import it from the utils file, right? Okay. And we just pass in the created at date, the date which the medical record was created. And also we'll put the doctor ID here. Okay. And also here we'll check if there is no diagnosis, right? If the diagnosis length is 0, then it means that there's no diagnosis for this appointment. But if there is a diagnosis, then we can bring the medical history dialog form, right? Okay, so maybe let me comment this for now. We'll bring that form, okay, where we can view the dialogue, or we can view the the dialogue will be available there. And also here we'll also show if there is no lab test, then we don't bring it. If there is a lab test, they will show the number of lab tests, right? Okay, and here also I think we have the view action, which I don't think it's available for now. So I'll just say this and let's see it. Okay. Okay, so this is what we have. We don't have any record yet. Okay, great. So let me first work on this view action because it's pretty simple. We have been doing a lot of pop-ups over and over again, so it should be pretty simple. Okay, great. Okay, so there should be this action options. Okay, so I don't think we have it. Okay, so I'll put this here inside the component called action options. Okay, so there are a lot of actions in it, but the one we are checking now, it's the view action. Okay, so these are some of the universal classes that we can apply. The view action will just bring in this link component, right, with a button inside that's a view. Okay, so we'll just bring this here with the href, right? And there's also other buttons like this, okay? And there's also view action, which is also a popover. Okay, so which one are we? Yes, okay, so is this, just call it, where is it coming from? Okay, so I need this one. Okay, great. So yeah, we don't have record, so we'll not see it. Okay, so once we have record, I think we can just, okay, let's just do it. Okay, so I'm just going to put that one also here, right? Okay, to not make the tutorial very long. Okay, so that's also, okay, so here we have interfaces here, right? So we are going to accept the ID, the patient ID, the doctor ID, and as well as the label. So if you check here, you can see that we are accepting all of this information, right? Okay, so I can uncomment it like this and import it. Great. Okay, so we pass all of this information and we pass the label as a component, right? A React node. Okay, so that is the label. So if you check the label here, it's a React node. Okay, great. So we pass it here and put it inside here, and now the dialog content will be the diagnose container. Now the diagnose container itself will be the diagnose form where we can put in the diagnosis, right? So for now it does not exist, so I'll just put in just a div, that's a paragraph that will just say diagnosis container or form, yeah, just like that. And I can remove this for now. Okay, great. So this is what we have, right? Great. And this is how it's supposed to be. Okay, so in our next episode we'll look at other things. So for now, if I click on this, it should take me to the appointment, right? Great, so I have it here. Great. If I go back and medical history, it just apply the query here. If I click on dashboard, it should take me to the patient dashboard. Okay, so this is my dashboard. Great. If I also click on maybe edit profile, I should go back to my profile and update my profile. Okay, so thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next episode. Bye.